Na déadíomh cáride as fáilte an gláir seo. If you'd like to support this video, you can do so by liking, subscribing, commenting or sharing, or alternatively, if you wish to support the channel, you can do so by buying a coffee at the link on the About page. Lámh Mharbh. Ireland has long been a land of story and superstition, woven into cultural memory of rural communities, particularly before the widespread of modernisation of the 20th century, are countless tales of magic, ghosts, fairies and folk rituals. One of the most sinister and unsettling of these traditions is the piseog of the dead hand, a form of folk magic rooted in fear, taboo and the belief that the boundary between life and death was thin and easily crossed. The term piseog refers to a superstition or magical act often linked to curses, charms or ritualistic practices aimed to bring in luck or misfortune. These were typically rural in nature, passed down orally from farming communities and tied closely to the seasons, agriculture and the spirit world. Piseogs might involve burying objects, reciting certain incantations or performing secretive rites to influence crops, livestock or even people. Among the darker and more feared of the piseogs is that of the dead hand, also known as the corpse hand or on Lámh Mharbh. This involved the use of a human hand severed from the corpse of someone recently deceased, often a criminal, suicide victim or an unbaptized child, used in magic rituals. The belief likely originated from a mix of Celtic reverence for the dead, medieval Christian taboos and pan-European necromantic practices. In many cultures, body parts were believed to retain a spark of the soul's power, and in Ireland, the hand became an especially potent symbol, used for blessing, cursing, healing or hexing.
Of course, there were all sorts of stories, Joe, about churning butter and stealing butter and ways to churn butter in these old folk tales, weren't there?
Oh, several. I have several stories heard and recorded for the commission, and I know that there were several ways of taking butter. Several. But I think the most successful method they had at the time was done through the means of what they call the Lámh Mharbh. The dead hand. And with that, together with the words, there was special words that had to be said by the maker of the butter. And he or she used the hand.
What was the dead hand?
Well, I'll tell you how they got it, the dead hand. We'll say that an old family would be dying out, and there'd be no immediate relatives, rather than we'll say a far out cousin. And you had no hospitals the same as county homes like what you have now. The people at the time were dying in the old homes, and at the time there used to be wakes, and big wakes. There used to be 2 days wakes, 2 nights wakes I should say. And the person then that would want to dismember or dislocate an arm or amputate, when that person is dead, they'd take off that arm, the dead hand. Now, that was wrapped up for the time being in paper and brought home. It had to undergo, well, embalming. It had to be processed in such a way that it would hold, not to decay, water fire, pollute or anything like that. And that had to be kept in the house with the people that wanted to use the incantations and take the butter. Now, that poor person, an old woman or an old man that died, put into the coffin, and you don't know whether he had 2 hands or 3 hands, because they'd be drunk with whiskey and everything like that, and he or she'd be put into the coffin after the church and buried the next day. But the hand was valuable to these people, very valuable. They kept the hand, God bless us and save us, and that it'd be preserved. We'd call it cured, I'd call it, like a bacon or a peak, and that'd be cured. And a certain amount of disinfections. But what were the disinfections consisted of? They had no stuff like what they have today. What had they? Soot, chimney soot.
That's how they preserve it.
And they'd embalm it, or they'd preserve it that way.
And what would they do with it? How was this useful for getting butter?
The cream would go into the churn. That's what I was told. Be put in there. Now, when that hand was taken down, this woman would say, I want Joe Flanagan's butter. I want Michael Cain's butter. I want... With the hand, together with the words. The hand was used through the cream. Oh, it wouldn't be hygiene now, it wouldn't. I don't think it would. The cream has done away with all this stuff. And that'd be worth 3 times the operator or the one to be making down that churn. It worth that.
And they'd get your butter?
Definitely.
They'd take your
100% they had it all taken. Wasn't it deadly?
Wicked sort of people.
Well, they'd almost take it on. Wicked was wicked. But it's the words that was used with the dead hand. These are the valuable words, but of course
You don't know them, Joe?
No.
In folklore accounts, the dead hand was sometimes used in the following ways. For cursing and hexing, it was by placing a dead hand in a person's home or in their land, was thought to bring ruin, souring milk, killing crops, or causing illness. The hand of glory. In some Irish and broader British Isles traditions, the severed hand of a hanged man could be turned into a hand of glory. This macabre artefact was dried and preserved, often with candles made from the fat of the same corpse. When lit, it was said to paralyse people in the household, put them to deep sleep, making a tool of thieves and dark sorcerers. Fertility and theft. Some piseogs involved placement of a corpse hand in a neighbour's field and Beowultna, or in Samhain, to steal their good luck, crop yield, or dairy productivity. This act of spiritual sabotage could cause victims' fields to fail while the practitioner enjoyed a prosperous harvest. The dead hand was also linked to the lore surrounding butter stealing, which you saw in the video. A type of milk magic believed to harm a neighbour's cow. Touching churn or cream with a corpse hand is thought to cause the butter not to form, or to prevent the household from producing any dairy product at all. While the dramatic claims may sound like Gothic fiction, there is an archaeological and historical evidence to suggest that some people genuinely believed and acted on such piseogs. In 19th and early 20th century Ireland, particularly in counties like Mayo, Clare, Kerry and Cork, farmers report instances of finding strange items buried in their land: eggs, bones, cloths, and even severed limbs. In some cases, people are arrested for grave robbing and are accused of necromantic practices. Folklorist Lady Augusta Gregory and later collectors of Irish Folklore Commission in the 1930s recorded oral accounts of the dead hand being used in curses and revenge. In some cases, local priests were called upon to exorcise the curse and rebury the hand in consecrated ground. The hand in Irish piseog tradition can be seen as a potent symbol of liminality, existing between life and death, good and evil, nature and magic. It encapsulated many of the fears that haunted pre-modern rural life: death, decay, disease, loss of livelihood, and the spiritual pollution of dealing with corpses. Its power came not only from the act itself, but the taboo of touching the dead. This is considered deeply unclean in Christian doctrine and spiritually dangerous in pagan memory. Thus, the piseog, the dead hand, wasn't just about the act, it was about the terror, disgust, and awe it inspired in those who encountered it. With the advent of modern science, rural electrification, and the increasing authority of the church, belief in the curse magic began to wane in the mid-20th century. However, vestiges of these practices persisted into living memory. Some older people still recount stories of a hand being found in a hedge, or a cursed churn that would only yield butter after being blessed by the priest. While today such tales are viewed with scepticism or curiosity, they remain part of Ireland's deep tapestry of folk belief, a reminder of how intimately magic, survival, and community fear were once entwined. The piseog of the dead hand is one of the most chilling and vivid elements of Irish folk magic. Rooted in a worldwide view where the dead could influence the living and everyday life was subject to unseen forces, it reflects a society trying to understand and manage the dangers of existence through ritual, belief, and symbol. Even in its horror, the dead hand, or in Lámh Mharbh, offers insight into the cultural psyche of rural Ireland, a land where the veil was always thin and the hands of the dead might reach out at any moment. Sin scale is Misha de Leroy Jean Thuma, Muila Buekas Osfor Quitoma, August Arish, Sloan, Go Fol.